Over 50,000 tanks, from machine gun-armed trainers to the heaviest vehicles ever built. These are the panzers that conquered a continent and fought to the last shell. This is every major German tank used in World War II. Let's begin with the early war tanks. Panzer I, the training tank forced into combat, armed with only two 7.92mm machine guns and featuring paper-thin armor of just 13mm. This tiny vehicle was never intended for frontline battle, yet it formed the backbone of the Polish and French campaigns, teaching crews the blitzkrieg tactics while being hopelessly outgunned by enemy armor. Panzer II, the stopgap that became essential. Mounting a 20mm autocannon in a rotating turret, the Panzer II was designed as a temporary solution, while heavier designs were developed. Fast and reliable, it spearheaded the early blitzkrieg operations, though crews quickly learned its thin armor couldn't protect them from anti-tank weapons. Panzer XXXV-AT, the Czech inheritance. Seized after Czechoslovakia's annexation, this Škoda-built tank featured excellent construction quality and a dependable 37mm gun. Distinguished by the gap behind its road wheels, it served distinctly in Poland and Russia before mechanical failures in the brutal winter forced its retirement from frontline service. Panzer XXXVIII, the reliable workhorse. Considered one of the best light tanks of the early war, this Czech design was so well engineered that Germany continued its production throughout the conflict. Its robust chassis would later become the foundation for numerous tank destroyers and assault guns, proving that good engineering outlasts original purpose. Panzer III, the designated tank hunter. Designed specifically as Germany's primary tank fighting vehicle, the Panzer III featured a three-man turret for superior tactical coordination. While its initial 37mm gun proved inadequate, upgraded variants mounting 50mm cannons could engage most Allied tanks effectively, setting the standard for medium tank crew layouts. Panzer IV, the evolving legend. Originally designed with a short-barreled 75mm gun for infantry support, the Panzer IV's large turret ring allowed continuous upgrades throughout the war. When fitted with the long-barreled 75mm gun, it transformed from a support vehicle into a lethal tank killer, becoming the only German tank to remain in production from 1939 to 1945. But Germany needed something more deadly, a predator that could dominate any battlefield and strike fear into Allied tank crews. Panther, Germany's answer to the T-34 shock. When German forces encountered the Soviet T-34 in 1941, the shock prompted an emergency response that would produce one of the war's finest tanks. Built with sloped armor mimicking the T-34 and armed with a high-velocity 75mm gun, the Panther combined firepower, protection, and mobility in a single deadly package that forced Allied tankers to call for air support whenever it appeared. Stooge 3, the most produced German armored vehicle. By removing the turret from the Panzer III chassis and mounting a gun in a low-profile casemate, Germany created the most cost-effective tank destroyer of the war. Originally designed as an infantry support assault gun, it evolved into a lethal tank hunter when fitted with the long 75mm gun, ultimately destroying more Allied tanks than any other German vehicle through sheer numbers and battlefield effectiveness. Tiger Psy, the legend that struck fear. With 100mm of frontal armor and the legendary 88mm gun adapted from the feared anti-aircraft weapon, the Tiger I became the most dreaded tank on any battlefield. Though slow at 38 km/h and mechanically complex, a single Tiger could hold off entire Allied tank companies, and its mere presence forced enemy commanders to completely alter their attack plans or wait for overwhelming air support. Sturm Tiger, the siege weapon on tracks. Mounting a massive 300mm rocket launcher on a Tiger I chassis, the Sturm Tiger fired rocket-propelled naval depth charges designed to demolish entire city blocks with a single shot. Only 18 were built, seeing action in the Warsaw Uprising and the defense of Germany, where their devastating firepower created massive psychological impact on attacking forces, despite the vehicle's 6-round ammunition, capacity, and lengthy reload time. Yet, as the tide turned against Germany and Allied armor grew stronger, even heavier monsters and specialized hunters emerged from the desperate factories of the Reich. Tiger II, King Tiger, the mobile fortress. Combining the thick armor of a heavy tank with the slope design philosophy of the Panther, this 70-ton beast mounted the powerful 88mm long-barreled gun that could destroy any Allied tank at ranges exceeding 2,500 meters. Nearly impervious to frontal attack, it represented the pinnacle of German heavy tank design, though its immense weight destroyed bridges, strained engines, and consumed fuel at rates that left many abandoned by their crews. Maus, the 188-ton impossibility. The heaviest fully enclosed armored vehicle ever built, the Maus mounted a 128mm main gun, plus a coaxial 75mm cannon in a turret weighing more than most complete tanks. Only 2 prototypes were completed before war's end, both captured by the Soviets, representing Hitler's obsession with ever heavier armor, even as Germany's fuel supplies and industrial capacity collapsed under Allied bombing. E-100, the final super-heavy dream. Designed as a more practical super heavy than the Maus, the E-100 was intended to mount the same devastating 128mm gun in a more efficient chassis. Only a single incomplete hull was constructed at the Henschel factory before Allied forces captured it, ending Germany's super heavy tank program, and proving that the future belonged to more mobile, reliable designs rather than immobile fortresses. Jagdpanzer 38T. Hetzer, the small ambush killer. Built on the proven Czech 38T chassis, this compact tank destroyer mounted a 75mm gun in a heavily sloped, fully enclosed casemate that made it incredibly difficult to spot. Its low profile allowed it to hide in positions impossible for larger vehicles, and the remote-controlled machine gun could defend against infantry without exposing the crew, making it a nasty surprise for advancing Allied troops. Jagdpanther, the perfect tank destroyer. Mounting the same 88mm gun as the Tiger II in the proven Panther chassis, the Jagdpanther is often cited as the best tank destroyer of World War II. Its sloped frontal armor, excellent mobility, and devastating long-range firepower created a vehicle that could destroy any Allied tank from over 2,000 meters while remaining nearly impervious to return fire from all but the heaviest guns. Ferdinand Elephant, the armored bunker. Built on rejected Porsche Tiger hulls, this 65-ton behemoth mounted the fearsome 88mm gun behind 200mm of frontal armor that made it nearly indestructible from the front. Though initially lacking a machine gun for self-defense against infantry, it became a legend at Kursk, where single vehicles destroyed dozens of Soviet tanks before mechanical failures or close-range infantry attacks finally knocked them out. Jagdtiger, the ultimate destroyer, the heaviest armored fighting vehicle to see operational service during World War II. The Jagdtiger carried the massive 128mm gun, capable of destroying any Allied tank from extreme range. However, weighing 71 tons, it was a logistical nightmare that frequently broke down before reaching the battlefield, and chronic fuel shortages meant many were abandoned by their crews or destroyed to prevent capture. But the panzer divisions needed more than just tanks and destroyers to function effectively on the modern battlefield. Martyr II, the desperate improvisation. By mounting the excellent 75mm PaK-40 anti-tank gun onto the reliable Panzer II chassis, Germany created an effective, if vulnerable, tank destroyer during the Soviet armor crisis. The open-top design left the crew exposed to shrapnel and small arms fire, but its low production cost and powerful gun made it a stopgap solution that served throughout the war on all fronts. Martyr III, the Czech chassis reborn. Utilizing the excellent Panzer 38T chassis with the same 75mm PaK-40 gun, this tank destroyer became one of the most numerous German anti-tank vehicles of the war. It served on all fronts and proved that the Czech chassis could be adapted for roles far beyond its original light tank design, remaining effective even as more sophisticated vehicles entered service. Nashorn, the long-range sniper. Essentially mounting the powerful 88mm gun on a lengthened Panzer IV chassis, the Nashorn could destroy any Allied tank from extreme distances exceeding 2,000 meters. With almost no armor protection, it relied entirely on its ability to engage enemy tanks from positions where return fire couldn't reach, withdrawing before counterattacks could locate its position. Vespi, the mobile. A Wasp. Converting the obsolete Panzer II chassis into a light self-propelled artillery piece, the Vespe mounted a 105mm howitzer that could provide immediate fire support to advancing panzer divisions. Fast and mobile with a relatively low profile, it could shoot and scoot before counter-battery fire could locate it, keeping pace with the rapid maneuver warfare Germany pioneered. Hummel, the heavy bumblebee. Mounting a heavy 150mm howitzer on a hybrid Panzer III fair chassis created a powerful mobile artillery platform capable of delivering devastating indirect fire. Though its ammunition capacity was limited to just 18 rounds, requiring support vehicles to carry additional shells, it could break up enemy formations before they reached German lines, providing crucial fire support during both offensive and defensive operations. Flak Panzer 38T, the early anti-aircraft defense. This interim vehicle mounted a single 20mm anti-aircraft gun on the rear of a Panzer 38T chassis to provide mobile air defense for panzer columns. Though the crew was dangerously exposed to strafing runs and armor protection was minimal, it could engage low-flying Allied aircraft and proved equally effective against infantry and light vehicles in ground combat. Flak Panzer IV. Wirbelwind, the Whirlwind. Featuring a distinctive open-top turret housing four 20mm anti-aircraft guns, this vehicle created a devastating wall of lead against low-flying aircraft. While designed to protect panzer columns from Allied air attacks, it proved equally lethal against infantry and light vehicles, earning a fearsome reputation in ground combat that extended far beyond its original anti-aircraft role. Flak Panzer IV Ostwind, the improved defender. Mounting a single more powerful 37mm anti-aircraft gun in a hexagonal turret, the Ostwind could engage aircraft at longer ranges than the quadruple 20mm guns of the Wirbelwind. Though production numbers remained low, as resources were prioritized for tanks and assault guns, it represented the evolution of German mobile anti-aircraft defense during the desperate final years. From the tiny machine-gun-armed Panzer I training tanks of the 1930s to the monstrous 188-ton Maus, Germany's armored forces evolved from fast-moving blitzkrieg formations into desperate defenders of the Reich. These 25 major tanks carried the Wehrmacht across Europe, struck fear into Allied hearts, and ultimately fell silent in the ruins of Berlin. Which of these German tanks is your favorite? Let me know in the comments.